Alright guys, I've been interested and waiting to do this video with you all about a category on my 4-2 cry score sheet. Okay, so you guys have seen me rate knives in these categories before on this score sheet, but I've never explained in detail this guy here. Let me circle it 3 times. Yeah. All right, so today we're going to talk about my 4-2 cry 3-step system. All right, and I think the best way to kind of introduce that would be to tell a story, hopefully as fast as possible, about where it came from. Yeah. Okay, so it started with this knife. Okay, and this knife is a thumb stud deployment liner lock. Yeah. And so when I first got it, I wasn't very good at deploying it with the thumb stud. Okay, and when you use a liner lock, it's a very deliberate process. Okay, so it raised 2 questions. I was wondering if, to be as pleasurable as possible, if knives should be more fidgety than this. Okay, and so the next knife that I was interested in getting was to answer that question. You know, is a more fidgety knife a better knife? Okay, and so the 2 things were to explore an easier deployment and a more fidgety release and close. Okay, and so this was knife number 2, and basically once knife 2 came into the picture, all of the questions were answered, and that's where the 4-2 cry 3-step system came from. Okay, so let me elaborate a little bit. So this flipper, okay, when I was looking at videos and looking at knives, I just was guessing that the flipper is probably one of the easiest deployments in terms of getting it out quickly and not assisted. Okay, and so sure enough, when it came in, I was correct. Okay, this is one of the easiest deployments that requires the lowest amount of skill. Okay, and then this guy, if I just press this button, yeah, it'll just drop. Okay, that wasn't a good example. Okay, but as you can see, I can just hold the button down, get it to fly open, get it to fly closed. And so I thought that the flaw of this knife was that, as well made as it was and as good as the tolerances were, and as well thought out as the design and engineering also were, I thought that perhaps the flaw of this knife was that it was maybe too mature, too serious, not enough fun, not fidgety enough. Yeah. Because when you watch all these YouTubers, yeah, do their knife things, the fidgeting, the deployment, and the close, it looks really fun, and you could get the impression that that's what it's all about. Okay, so what I learned is several things. Yeah, and I don't know exactly the best order to explain this, so we will just jump into it, and whatever happens happens. Okay, but what I learned is that there is nothing wrong, and it, in my case, doesn't rob the joy or satisfaction of things coming out slowly and deliberately. Okay, of being able to slowly and deliberately release something, and to be able to slowly and deliberately close something. In fact, not only is the joy and satisfaction not diminished, okay, in my case, it is vastly improved. Okay, like in the case of this knife, you can still do that, yeah. Okay, but it's very good at this, and this. Okay, and when you do a slow and deliberate open, when you do a slow and deliberate lock release, and when you do a slow and deliberate close, even though multiple knives can do that, if you do it that slowly, they all feel different, okay? And so some knives feel glorious when they do that. And you can tell a lot about the knife from it, okay? So what are some things I learned? Yeah, I learned that I really like to manually open my knives, okay? So I don't think I'm an assisted opening type of guy. For the same reason, I don't like the looseness and fidgetiness of this, okay? I just like things being a little more serious and controlled. For those same reasons, yeah, I'm not gonna want an OTF knife, yeah, or a spring-loaded, spring-assisted knife, okay? Because you know how, like in a car, once upon a time back in the day, to change volume, there was like a knob, yeah? And in some cases, the knob had nice, like, I don't even know what it's called, okay? I don't know if it's called knurling or what, yeah? But there used to be those grooves all around the knob where you could feel it, yeah? And you would turn it. And then there used to be physical manual buttons, okay? Where you could push them in. And then there were also physical manual switches, yeah? That you could flip up and you could flip down, okay? And I know a lot of us remember those days and prefer those days, yeah? So it wasn't just knobs and buttons, guys, yeah? It was knobs and buttons and switches too, okay? So there's something great about analog, okay? I think that's the reason that record players still exist, okay? And in some people's case, yeah, like what is that Marvel movie called? Guardians of the Galaxy, yeah? They even represent the Walkman cassette player in that, okay? So sometimes there's a high amount of beauty and joy in analog or manual things, okay? So going along with that, yeah, is the fact that something that requires no skill and is easy can in fact bring less joy and satisfaction than something that still isn't that hard. It still doesn't take a lot of skill, yeah, but it does require a little more skill and a little more experience and a little more practice, okay? So easy is not necessarily that satisfying, yeah? And I think that's a good way to explain like why this system came up, yeah? In terms of knives, I've learned that the single most determining factor for how much I enjoy a knife or don't enjoy a knife out of all of these things, yeah, is actually the 4-2-cry 3-step system, okay? If I pick up a knife, I can rate it pretty darn quickly, okay? I can go to Walmart and grab knives out of the case, open them up, close them, yeah? I can go to the local cutlery store close by, okay? And check out their nicer knives, yeah? And open them, okay? And close them. And it really is this 3-step system that has more bearing on how I feel about the knife than anything else, okay? And so let's go over some different things, yeah, and how I feel about it, and kind of surprising, okay? Because the locking mechanisms, the lock systems that I like, maybe very different than the majority of people, okay? So if you look at the spread on my table, I put them in certain categories and I put them in an order, okay? And so in terms of the 4-2-cry 3-step system, the knives up here on this side, okay, fit my system the least and the worst, okay? But in some ways, I actually like these 4 better than these 3, okay? But I'll say why. And the knives down here, okay, with their locking systems, are the knives that I prefer, okay, that I like the most. Okay, so how does this work? Okay, so all four of these knives, yeah, all of these ones are called slip joints, yeah. Okay, you guys are familiar with that. So let's go try out the 3 things. Okay, so we have 1, yeah, we have 2, and in this case it stops here, and then we have 3. Okay, so I like the fact that it is very manual. Okay, there's nothing wrong with being manual, and I like the fact that in this case, one hand is not an option for me. Okay, like I'm not opening this thing with one hand. Okay, can I close it with one hand? I could, but I'm not gonna. Seems like a dangerous prospect. Okay, so this knife forces me to be manual and deliberate. Open, break, close. It forces me to use 2 hands. Okay, and nothing is wrong with that. Okay, so why is it way up there as what I would say not the best? Okay, the reason is it doesn't have a true lock. Yeah, the slip joint holds it in place. Okay, but it's not a true lock. Okay, and most of the times, most of us know that you don't need a true lock. Okay, but a knife is one of those things with enough risk and consequence, yeah, that you can be right 99 times out of 100, and being wrong even 1 out of 100 times is probably not good enough. Yeah, it's kind of like when people that are woodworkers lose a thumb working on a project. Yeah, once the thumb is gone, it's gone. Yeah, and even in that case, yeah, you could be right 999 times out of 1,000. Okay, but the one time is catastrophic. Okay, I'm going to give one more analogy that I think is kind of related to this. It's like when I go fishing. Did you know, guys, that darkness and wetness, waves and rain, holy moly, they are the most unfair thing in the world. Okay, why do I say that? Okay, because, yeah, you can stay dry. You can do everything possible to stay dry for hours. Yeah, you can be careful. You can avoid slipping. You can try to stay away from splash zones. You can put up a tarp. You can try to wear waterproof stuff, and you can be dry for 90% of the trip. And then once it gets dark, yeah, if for some reason it starts raining on you, or for some reason you accidentally get splashed when you're fighting a fish, oh, yeah, instantly, in 1 second, you can be wet. Yeah, so you can go from dry to wet in the blink of an eye. Yeah, but what about going from wet to dry? You know, it's okay if you have towels and a car close by. It's okay if you have a change of clothes, okay? And it's okay if it's sunny and warm outside. But, yeah, if it's dark and you're far from your car, yeah, once you're wet, you're gonna be wet for the rest of that trip, okay? And yeah, that's kind of related, I think, to slip joints. Yeah, 99% of the time it might not even matter that it doesn't have a lock, okay? But if that one time you need a lock is not there, okay, well, that's not going to be very fun. All right, so that's why these guys are the lowest, even though in some ways, because of their forced deliberateness, okay, in some ways they're better than these three guys, okay? Okay, so these three have something in common, yeah, guys? These three all have in common that I can just hold down a button or something, and without even using this flipper, okay, I can get it to go out without the flipper, yeah? And then, if it's locked out like that, instead of having to hold down the button, yeah, to break it or bring it back in, I really could just hold it, take it out, continue holding it, bring it back in, yeah? Okay, this one, same thing, okay? I could flick it, and then break it, and then guide it in, okay? But I could also just pull on this thing and boom, boom, and we could do it many, 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 many times, okay? That, okay? And then this guy, same thing, okay? I really could put it out, break it, see that one, it fell in. I wasn't even trying to get it to fall in, I was trying to get it to stop there, okay? And bring it, okay? But we could just hold this down, go out, come back in, go out, come back in, okay? And what's funny is, this is what I thought I wanted in a knife, okay? And I very quickly learned that that's not me, all right? And so in the 4-2-cry 3-step system, there's really two main concepts, okay? The first one is a deliberate open, a deliberate release, and a deliberate close. These three previous things being done deliberately, okay? And the only other thing is that drop shut is penalized, okay? I know that's not nice to say. I know a lot of people are like, oh, that's what knives are all about. You cannot penalize drop shut. Actually, I can. Okay, I can if I want to, okay? So yeah, if you see, all of these have drop shut, okay? And the drop shut makes it so that all of these have a level of control that is hard to achieve, okay? It's kind of missing, okay? That's not to say we can't do it, yeah? So let's pretend we're doing, we're not firing it out and dropping it in, yeah? Let's say we want to deliberately do the three things, okay? So deliberately open, okay? Deliberately break it, that went farther than I wanted it to, okay? And deliberately close it, okay? It's really the second one, you know. This is fine. This last part is fine, but it's just, yeah, this is kind of a mystery, okay? Like, that's pretty good. All right, so that's what we've got going on here. Yeah, this guy has similar symptoms or problems, okay, to these ones, but it has a mechanism that is a little bit better, yeah? So we can totally fire this out. We can totally hold down this button and drop it back. We can also hold down this button and take it out and back in and out and back in. And yeah, if that's what someone wants. Just extremely fidgety, okay? I'm gonna forget if I don't say this, yeah? Why, yeah? Why do I not like this, yeah? Boy, when it comes to risky and dangerous things, I think control is important, yeah? And I think safety also is important. So that's why, okay? The kid in me that wanted to find out and experiment, wanted to see if this is a better way, okay? And the adult in me, once I compared the two things, was like, no, that is not the way. Mandalorian, this is not the way. or this is the way. Okay, anyway, so here we go. Yeah, this is better than these three, because even though it can do drop shot, okay, I can usually predictably time when I let go of this thing and have enough time to actually catch it, okay, where I want to catch it. So sometimes I'll miss, sometimes this thing doesn't exactly do what I want it to, but it's way easier for me after releasing the blade to catch the blade where I want to catch it than with these three knives. Okay? And this is where things get interesting. Okay? All of us probably know, and many of us probably think, yeah, that the back lock is no fun, not fidgety, old school, yeah, and therefore inferior, yeah, because all things new by default are automatically better than old things. Just like how a touch screen where you gotta go through 17 different menus and press 27 different buttons to change the volume on your car is better than a knob. Yeah, okay, so we all know and we all agree that anything old is junk, anything new is good, yeah, and all things newer are just superior. Okay, of course, I don't mean that at all, right? Because you know, I thought that these things kind of went the way of the dinosaur, yeah. I thought that modern knives replaced these. Okay, no, there's a reason these guys didn't go away, nor should they. They should not go away. Okay, these things are masters at one, okay, deliberate open. In this case, actually has a lock, unlike this one. Okay, two, a very deliberate break, and three, in this case, I won't even one finger slam it. Yeah, three, boom. Okay, nothing's wrong with that. That's fantastic. Okay, so this is great. Okay, so two-hand deliberate, especially if it actually locks. Okay, there is nothing wrong with that. Okay, let's go middle one. Yeah, so we open it with two hands, one. We break it with two hands, two. Okay, and we close it with two hands, three. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, nothing is wrong about opening and closing a knife like that, or needing to open and close a knife like that. But at the same time, I think we can all agree that it's not very fun, it's not very fidgety, not very enjoyable. Okay, so therefore, as good as the back lock is, it is still very nice when you have a back lock that you can operate with one hand. Okay, so doing this, opening something like this, I agree, guys, it's not the same as opening something like that. But guess what, guys? Did you know that I am enjoying doing this just as much, maybe more, than I just enjoyed doing that? Okay, this was faster. Okay, but this was no less enjoyable. Okay, so that was with one hand, guys. And because the back lock is here and not all the way down here, okay. Oh, in this case, this guy doesn't drop like the other two. Okay, so every knife a little bit different. This guy I gotta kind of roll with my pointer. Okay, this guy I put my finger here to protect myself. Boom. Okay, and this guy drops. This guy also does that. Okay, so boom, and then I put my finger here and it drops. Okay, boom. This guy has a different personality. This guy I actually have to press it and push it a little bit, help it along, and then do it. Okay, but so as you can see, guys, I can do the slow deliberate open, very enjoyable. Okay, I can operate the brake with one hand. very enjoyable, and I can bring it home with one hand. Very enjoyable. Okay, I will tell you that I enjoy doing this. Boom, 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 boom. One more time. Boom, boom, boom. I enjoy doing this or that with this knife more than I enjoy doing this. Okay, and more than I enjoy trying to do this with this. Yeah, boom. You see, yeah, okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, there's just around the pivot when you break the lock, there's just that lack of control. Okay, and if I went even more deliberate, I would pinch this blade, open it, break it, can't get it right, boom, all three. 1, 2, that's as good as I can do. Okay, 3. That's why this one's worse than these two. Okay, it's just, it falls more unpredictably. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, nothing wrong with the back lock, the old one, but it's a two-hand thing. These guys enjoy the best of both worlds. Yeah, I can do the two-hand thing if I'm just trying to be really safe. Okay, but if I kind of want to have fun, I can still do the one-hand things with these. Okay, these guys are like this. Okay, problem is they don't have a lock. These guys are out of control. This guy is between these and this. Okay, so what do we have going on here? We have a frame lock, a liner lock. There's no point in what I just did. Okay, and a liner lock. Okay, so I like liner locks the most. I like frame locks the second most. And I like modern back locks the third most. Okay, imagine that. Okay, back locks. I mean, we could almost group frame locks and liner locks together. Yeah, they're almost the same thing. Yeah, so if we said frame locks and liner locks are kind of the same thing, okay, what this means is that back locks in that case are my second favorite locking mechanism. Okay, you know what they say, yeah, no school like old school. Okay, so this is like, what would this be? This would be like our cassette player. Okay, or the knobs and buttons and switches on the car radio. All right, so these are masters, yeah guys. Okay, because you can still fire these things. Fire, 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 and struggling, fire. Okay, you can still fire them, so you still have that fidget factor if you want it. Okay, but none of these things have drop shut. And remember, I penalize drop shut because I want a deliberate break. Okay, so in terms of a drop, none of these are fidgety. They're not fidgety in that sense because all of them have a deliberate break. Okay, a deliberate break. So you know exactly what point it's getting broken to because you are literally controlling it and it doesn't run away from you, right? Okay, and then finally a deliberate close. And like I said, even though all the knives can do it, none of them feel the same. They really, really don't. Guys, I'm proud to share with you guys this preference of mine, okay, this system of mine, because I think, yeah, that a lot of you would come to the same conclusion as me, or already have come to the same conclusion before me, yeah, but we just exist in a world and in a community, yeah, where a lot of people will say otherwise. Yeah, forget them. Yeah, they can say whatever they want. Okay, we'll just do what we know is better. Okay, so guys, what's better about this? Okay, what's better about this is that it is still extremely fun. Okay, but it's more mature and it's a heck of a lot safer. Okay, all right. So even though we can fly things open, it's nice to have that option. Okay, we also have the option of doing it slowly. Yeah, and in the case of Spyderco, boy, yeah, you can do it with the thumb slowly. We can go over here and pinch it slowly and switch to pointer. Nice options, nice options. Okay. So yeah, in the world of the 4-2 3-step system, those are my thoughts. What's funny is, I really expected this to be less than a 10-minute video. I was thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna pound out a 6-minute video. So much for that one, yeah. Okay, we'll finish with this knife. So why is this knife the best, my favorite? Okay, in addition to a lot of things, it is the best at this. Okay, just slow, deliberate open, break, and the most amazing closure ever. Right? All right, that's it.